was a really cool thing compared to somebody who has a really established career and a debut author who might be building a career. So, you know, I have a lot of authors who we have built our careers together and are continuing to build our careers together because when they were debut authors, they took a chance on me. So I was a newbie agent, and they took a chance, an extra chance on them, and you know, we built careers together, which is pretty cool. So sometimes that same thought process would go into editors.
Yeah, that was one thing idea of building careers, right? Because
सबके सुनेदा और अपने भी सबके शिक्षाप्रद बात के सुनेला तैयार रहा.
Thought about, particularly on social media and about agents.
Right. No, and I actually think that's a really good point. I mean, you know, I'm only as good as my clients.
Yeah.
And if I am not building careers and, you know, reputations for my clients, then I don't have one either. So it's all, I'm really
Chakravartin Ashoka, the wheel-turning monarch.
Well,
Your success in war made plain to you its costs. Determined to end the cycle of violence that marked your time as Emperor of Maurya, you brought wisdom instead of swords, the Dharma in place of destruction, and a message of non-violence to all beings. The world now needs your wisdom.
Thanks for coming. Bye.
Welcome back to the Bookends YouTube channel. I'm James McGowan.
I'm Jessica Fass.
And we are literary agents who have taken our popular blog to YouTube to discuss all things publishing. If you joined us last week, you know we talked about why querying takes so long. So today we want to give some insight into the process
Chakravartin Ashoka,
to sell your
the wheel-turning monarch.
Your
success in war made plain to you its costs.
Exactly.
Determined to end the cycle of violence that marked your time as Emperor of Maurya, you brought wisdom instead of swords, the Dharma in place of destruction, and a message of non-violence to all beings. The world now needs your wisdom.
Today you're getting ready to go out on submission. What the hell do I expect?
It's going to take a long time.
A long time. So in the last video we talked about how many submissions an agent gets. So now consider how many submissions an editor gets. Sure, it's significantly less than what an agent is getting because there's not as much unsolicited. All of their CVs are coming through an agent. But consider how many agents there are, how many clients they have, and how many books go out on submission in any given month. And an editor likely has a lot of books in their inbox. The difference between an editor and an agent is that they are probably in some capacity reading a chunk of those books because they're more polished, they're from contacts they have made and harvested with their colleagues, and they can trust. So we're going to start that process, but they also have a backlog the same way an agent has that.
Yeah, and they also have way more steps to getting approval. Most agents, or at least at Bookends, each agent really can just make their own decision. So I can finish a book right now and call an author right now and offer representation. Editors can't do that.
That's my favorite part of the agent. Nobody is really telling you no besides you. If they will.
No, it's true though. I mean, but editors have to go through, once they finally read that book and like it, now there's a huge series of steps the editor has to go through before they can even call the agent with an offer.
Yeah, so before we even get to those steps, something to consider in terms of editor response times is just like an agent, they have a full job that they have to do.
Yeah.
So many days throughout the week, an editor will spend that either on phone calls and now mostly everything is phone calls.
The river there
but in
is
meetings with their team, cover designers and production and all this stuff, they're having conversations about the books that they've already bought and how they're going to launch that, marketing, all of this. And those meetings are time consuming. They're often, they are involved. So that takes up a big chunk of their time during the day. So editors might often find themselves like an agent reading their queries and submissions in their free time.
Yep, subway rides are great for that.
Exactly. So now they have done all of their jobs. They have read the submission. They want to take it. Now it goes through, like you were saying, that whole process, and that process is like, depending on the publishing house, anywhere from like 2 to 8 steps.
Yeah, and it does differ, but I think generally it's the same with all publishers. I always tell my authors, expect it to take at least, if not more, 2 weeks before the editor can even get to your book. And then I always feel like the process from that, liking the book to getting to being able to offer, is again at least 2 weeks. Sometimes a lot more.
Yeah, something to consider is you will see it all the time on social media now, like the books that go like that, right? The books that go like that are either the exception or they didn't really go like that.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing about social media is the impressions. Things happen at like the speed of light. And definitely I have had books that I've sold within 24 hours of submitting, but in 20 years, it's pretty rare. Yeah. So, I think there's this, it's sort of like the sense on social media that this author had an instant career just because nobody noticed the previous 10 books they published.
Or, how long they were hearing, or how long they were on submission with the book. Sure, it might seem like that book sold fast, but really, you're not tracking it.
Right.
Take everything on social media, like take that instantaneousness with a grain of salt. That's not a word, but take it with a grain of salt.
And also, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just because a book sells fast doesn't make it more successful than a book that took 6 months to sell.
Well, I'd say it's like lightning in a bottle. So it is lightning in a bottle if that editor picked up that book at that time, fell in love with it. It's the same thing with an agent, too. It's lightning in a bottle that we opened your submission, sat down, had the time to really just read it and fall in love with it.
Right.
It feels like every sort of great happening in publishing is lightning in a bottle.
Yep. All right, so now the editor loves the book.
Right.
Now we have next steps. Okay.
Right.
These can kind of cross over. There's almost always second read. So what that means is that now the editor needs backup. The editor needs other people to go, the two.
Yeah. And consider how long it took you to get that editor read that book, right? Now we're juggling 2, 3, 4 more editors' timelines to read that book.
Yeah. And this can happen, I guess, roughly 2 different ways that I can think of. One way is that the editor reaches out to maybe their superior, maybe a couple superiors, and then maybe just a couple colleagues who are not necessarily superior at the same level, and will say, I really love this book, can you do a second read? The second way those second reads tend to happen is that the editor presents the book in front of the editorial board or at the editorial meeting. So each week, publishers typically have an editorial meeting where the entire editorial staff, those who acquire books, sit down at a table and discuss upcoming projects, things that have sold, some things they've bought. The idea is that they're building their list. They're discussing what they want to publish as a team within the next year. Yeah. So it could be, instead of just asking people, it could be that the editor presents the book at the editorial meeting. And at that point, sometimes the editor-in-chief, sometimes people volunteer to do second reads, sometimes the editor-in-chief will assign people, and sometimes people will. So there are 2 ways that second reads can happen. It depends on the publishing house, it depends on the project, it depends on the editor. There's no sort of hard and fast rule, but the hard and fast rule usually is that there are second reads.
Yeah. And you were saying that it goes to an editorial team. Sometimes that editorial team is like the bigger acquisitions meeting, and then sometimes it's 2 steps too. So like you'll go to the editorial team, and then you'll go to a second meeting with the entire sales, marketing, all of that.
It depends. Yeah, it really depends on the book and the publisher. And sometimes it doesn't go to a meeting with sales. It could just be passed off to a couple of sales reps to read it. It could be that you send them a report. It could be a bajillion other things. But yeah, sometimes it needs approval just from the editorial board and the editorial director, and sometimes they also want approval from the editorial team. So it really depends on the book and the publisher. And sometimes it doesn't go to a meeting with sales. It could be that you send them a report. It could be that you send them a report. It could be a bajillion other things. But yeah, sometimes it needs approval just from the editorial board and the editorial director, and sometimes they also want approval on a larger level to make sure that marketing feels there's potential there and is good.
Yeah, and that could be, like you said, structured meetings, or it could be everybody's everywhere right now, so we're going to send it to this person, and we're going to corral all their answers. Yep. So naturally, there's not a very set timing.
Right.
Unfortunately.
So once, now let's say everything is going swimmingly and we have approval. Now the editor needs to run numbers, which means that they need to run a P&L, profit and loss statement on the book to determine how much they think they can spend into it. Typically in advance is expected to earn out within the first year. So whatever they pay the author, they predict that they will sell enough books that within the first year of sales, the author will start earning royalties because their advances earn. We've done other videos on advances, so we definitely
do
more
nothing.
Information on that. And there's definitely information on the blog. But numbers have to be run, and that again involves sales and the operations department, paper costs, cover costs, the art department. All of these numbers have to go into play when determining how much a book, sales firm has to say, we think we can sell this many copies. Paper costs play into it. How much does the cover going to cost? All of these things go into play in the P&L. At which point, finally, the editor is given the go-ahead. Well, no, then the editor usually has to go back to potentially the editor-in-chief, the publisher, whoever makes these final decisions, who will then say, yes, you can go and offer it. And then an offer.
Yeah, and then consider, just because an offer is made, doesn't mean the copy is done.
Oh, no.
Right, because now you know your agent is done, and your agent is generating all of the other editors who have the book in their submission file. That process could potentially happen on all of those editors' houses, and then we see if we have other offers and how to handle it from there before entering the negotiation.
Yep, and then we negotiate, which can take a day, and it can take weeks. Negotiating can take weeks. I mean, talking about this business is fast. And again, part of that is that there's just a conversation. Your agent isn't just going and negotiating. You're also having conversations with you. And maybe negotiating multiple offers from multiple publishers.
Yep.
And then in all of those steps, the editor usually has some leeway in the offer they make, but typically they also have to check. Can I do this? They now want this. Can I go up? Can we give them this royalty? Can we give them this option? Can we give them this territory? There's lots of conversations that happen in the negotiation process, which is why, and I think too, in this world we're living in now, where people are not all in the office, it takes longer, because it doesn't mean I can just run down the hall and stick my head in the office when you hang up the phone and ask you a question. It means that I have to try to find you wherever in the world you live.
Yeah, and then just managing the schedule on your terms. Like that person is now on a call, and I didn't know that because I couldn't see them. So all of that plays into
it. Yeah. So I think in a nutshell, that's why it takes so long. Did we miss anything?
No, that's pretty much everything. And then, of course, how long it takes for you to announce it, which will drive every author crazy. Usually when contracts are done, that's when you get to announce your book. And it feels like an eternity in that.
Should we talk about how long contracts can take?
Yeah, so a contract, we used to say that a contract could take anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks from the construction department, but I would say that was pre-COVID. Post-COVID, everything is taking a lot longer. Those files are taking stuck at any given point. It takes a lot longer.
We are seeing contracts take up to 6 months to even get the initial contract from the publisher.
So, here we meet.
Yeah, and an agent is...
I gotta ask
on
myself.
top of that, but that does prolong the process of finalizing your agreement, getting you paid, and usually a publisher will wait until that agreement is finalized to announce it. Is there any subsidiary right deals that we can include, or some agents just prefer to have a contract.
And the contract process itself is very tedious.
Yeah.
So we have a boilerplate with every contract, but that doesn't mean that we just get a contract we sign off on, because every contract has its own nuance. So if it takes the publisher, let's be generous, 4 to 6 weeks to get us the initial contract, they have to draft it, make sure they use our boilerplate, make sure they're using the correct terms that we negotiated with the editor, and they're putting that contract together. It's not just, pulling it out of a bin and tossing it. There's things that have to go in there.
There's a lot of moving parts.
Right.
Every word.
And once we get the contract, it can take 2 weeks for us to fully evaluate, review, and every single contract has something that needs to be negotiated, boilerplate or not. So we have a couple of weeks. We are sending over our points to the publisher, and then everybody's slow. Then we have to wait for the contracts person to come back on our point. And
which can take weeks, or it can take months, or 2 months, which hopefully, again, the contract will hopefully it's within.
And it's pretty rare that that's it. Then we go back to them and say, okay, we can accept this, but we still can't accept that. And then they can go back and we can't give you this, but we can give you this, and we can agree with this, but not this. And back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And sometimes it can be fast, and sometimes it can take weeks. Then you get the contract, and then hopefully you can sign it, and then hopefully they can sign it, and then we're done. But there is a ton of back and forth, and for anybody who's never seen a publishing contract, 13, 15 pages on legal size paper in tiny font is pretty normal. So it's a lot to review, and it's not just...
It's like physically to sit there and read it and not get a headache are pretty impressive. Like it takes some time to digest, and then also to, and have like a think it over and negotiate it quickly.
Yeah.
All of that, it takes time.
Yeah, and in each contract, each author in their career needs to be considered differently from each contract, because I need to consider what your goals are for career, what else you're writing, what other contracts you're under. I need to consider all of that when I'm reviewing the contract and going back to the publisher. So it's a process.
Yes.
You must be in the middle of one. You look so tired.
Yeah, it's a long time. It is, and then we're doing, like you said, for hopefully many clients have time.
Yeah.
But we hope that was helpful insight into what the process is like to submit and sell your book. Join us back here next time for why it takes so long for once this process is done for your book to actually publish, because there's a lot there that a lot of authors might realize. So we hope to see you back here next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss that video, and see you soon.
Bye.
Welcome back to the Bookends YouTube channel. I'm James McGowan.
And that's the best.
And today we have our newest associate agent, Emily Forney, with us. Yeah, so we
pick her brain about everything.
Jessica had the great idea to bring all of the agents from Puget into individual conversations so that you can get to know them and audience. So today Emily is going to talk a little bit about being a new agent and what it was like getting here and what she's working with. So let's dive right in. Our first question for you, Emily, is you are the newest agent at Puget, so we do want to hear what it's like, been like so far.
Maybe not all of it.
Not all of it. Like a little bit. No, it's honestly, and I'm not just saying this because it's like
He was the first to construct a wall.
I was kind of under the impression for the longest time that these just worked very independently. I almost like envisioned them like independent contractors that worked like, you know, with the same space, maybe represented the same thing.
I do not open up.
We're sort of like, I'm doing this for myself, and I have like my own individual brand. And that's kind of how I was like approaching the idea of what agency was. And like honestly, all the agency like ideals I had came from the media, which like really influenced that. And so when I came here and I realized like how unbelievably selective this group and that this was so much more like I don't want to say like home because I feel like but no, it's we all have these individual specialties that are very important. It feels as if we are and we really just like create like great. So it's been great. And then mentorship has been feel like I've been going first everything I get nervous to ask all the questions that have so many. Everyone has genuinely so open about sharing just like these experiences which are vastly different from one another. So like yeah. Sort of like you know work but the same
You know, because it's so different from my perspective. And when I started, obviously it was a different world. I'm curious about those first days when you sat down at your desk and you're like, okay, I'm an agent now. And like what do I do?
No, it was honestly terrifying, and the moments of like imposter syndrome where I was like sitting here and I was like writing in a notebook and I was like creating was like 101 and I was writing down like the most basic things where I was like check your email at a different time and I was just trying to like write this to remind myself that like you know one of those little things that throughout time I'm like actually a way and it's all about connecting and it's and so yeah there's a lot where I'm writing and I'm creating these moments with like where I'm trying to say I'm organizing my life and I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing and I think the first few days I was just like I think it was 4 days of us announcing that
Yo soy doña Isabel, monarca de estos reinos y señoríos.
Already. And that was, you know, I was like, I was like, okay, I wanted to write my all the people that have just sent me and what they've been working on for forever. But also, I was like, it took a little bit of time to be like, okay, this is what I need to expect, and I just was like, I wasn't gonna know it, and there were many things that I didn't know, and I experienced that in that, and so.
I'm not going to start talking. I really have some understand about knowing.
It's true. It's very much a deep end situation. Nobody warned you, and now here you are trying to put the best way to do it.
And that's why we often say to authors, like new agents are fantastic because they're hungry and they have an extensive list, but finding the document place where they can do research.
The spoken word.
Things is beneficial
No, I also think the hunger is not just about the list too, because like you said, you have no question about these things and you don't know what you don't know, so you're trying to learn it all. So that hunger isn't just like, yeah, I want to work on all these great projects. It's I want to learn how to do this the right way and therefore do right by you. So I think it's like that whole experience of getting kicked in the deep end but trying to learn how to float by yourself is what makes a new agent, in my opinion, so great.
Yeah, and there are also new agents are also not stuck in the you know, you haven't been doing the same thing the same way for 20 years. So if three people at the agency say, well, I do it this way, it's all open to you. And, you know, often none of them are right and none of them are wrong. So you get to sort of really create your own experience, which is great for them.
I feel like I'm way more open right now than I've ever been here before. And just how I'm often working on my own. And I think that is because I have this time right now and I have just like this openness with how I want to go forward in the process. I'm excited and I hope other people who are going to work with me are super excited.
I'm excited. I like what you say about experimental work because I feel like the longer you've been in this business, the more you've been burned and the fact that you haven't sold projects. You know, by the time people come and settling into what you know is easy. And so it's fun. I mean, I try to do that too, but it's fun to try new things and to say, like, I really love this. I don't know if I can sell it, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And some of the best books come from that, honestly. Some of my best books have come from that.
Well, Emily, you earned a fellowship with the LA Review. So can you talk a little bit about that? What was it for? What was it like working there?
So it honestly, it changed the game for me for the longest time. So I got my MFA, and for people who get their MFA, they might for like 13 years old. This is all you need. You just get your master's degree, go out in the world, and you're in publishing. Yeah, that's not a reality at all. You have hundreds of thousands of people who also want to do this, and so for the longest time, I felt like I was floundering a little bit, and I was doing freelance work, and I was editing and writing, and I was trying to figure out where I wanted to fit in, and I did a lot of editorial work, and I worked with small markets, I did that. I feel like, you know, I did my rite of passage where I opened the and I did the whole, you know, I'm going to give lots of free content out, and but I wanted to figure out, like, where do I fit into that development, but not just where I fit, like, how can I contribute,
There is another world.
and how can I not just say, oh, I'm willing to do this work because, you know, I need the work. It was more like, okay, well, I know that I do have value with my experiences of what I've created for myself after I left school. All of the strengths and cultivations of all of the communities behind the test-based website. And the LA Review of West has this incredible fellowship, but normally it only in LA. So it's one of those things to me in publishing. It is hard to get in. It's not the most exciting thing. A lot of places are like, you need to have an internship in order to get into even like an entry level job, and they're all in New York or they're all in and so it's a weird kind of circumstance with, you know, the lockdown right now and having to deal currently with so many things with online and I was so fortunate to be able to get a spot publishing an editorial fellow and ultimately they were really showing me just like the ins and outs of publishing as a whole. So I had a very intensive fellowship in which I was taught, okay, so there is agency, but there's like how you work with work, how do you work with if you want to do digital writing, if you want to honestly get to marketing, or if you want to even do acquisition. There's just every possible level that we're going to show you all of this. We're going to bring in those research professionals, and you're going to learn along the way. And as I was learning all of the roles of publishing, I was also working with their PubLab, which is this digital print where we're like, okay, so we're going to start kind of engage with start we're going to achieve everything that we need to know, and every single role that goes along with it. So you want to make sure that you aren't just specializing in one area where you're very tunnel vision, and also learn everything that happens, all the people I would interact with, what their role is, and I also had to experience like working experience. So it was a very intense fellowship, and ultimately what it was supposed to do is industry, and it was also supposed to be for people who didn't typically really think not. I don't even want to say accepted in, but it's like the door wasn't open. And so like we're going to
He was the first.
door, and now was very, very well, and it was when we got to the starting to get about agency and actually that's exactly what I worked in a space where in editorial, I was
Nukankani pachakuter, intihsami.
And done. I wanted to cultivate relationships. I wanted to stay with someone through their career, and if something wasn't perfect or perfect for industry ideals, I wanted to be able to work on it, and I'm ready to be that person that that's what this whole fellowship led me up to. And within the fellowship, that's where I found him, and then it just kind of rolled from there.
I love what you said about what we bring to this industry, and I think that for people looking for a job in publishing, whether it's the industry as a whole or the specific place where you're interviewing, great things to have in mind when you walk in. And it's something that when I talk to this person, what can they bring us that we don't already have? And it's not always thing, it's a new way of thinking and things like that. But I think that's great.
Well, I know that there was some hesitance, maybe that's not the right word, about a financial agency that was calling for FOC applicants. So can you talk a little bit about that and sort of how you made those decisions?
I don't want to interrupt them, but I think for some of our viewers, they might not know that Puget's put a call out specifically to hire more Blackhawk. And we are thinking other agencies and publishers have done the same. And when Emily spoke for the first time, she told me that they so appreciated that these people come to her and to questions. I'd love to hear you talk about that.
So I'm kind of very open. So it's great, but I'm not quite presenting, and that's been my whole life. And so I have my team and a lot of my experiences within writing. It's one of those things where I either haven't been able to get in where I want to, because a lot of people are like, well, your experience is sometimes what you want to do with it, then it doesn't align with what you want to do, or it's just a lot of and even just being part of these communities. And so
The essence of
and I think it was one of those things where this year, was exciting. there was a shift in the media, and I think for a lot of reasons, because we're seeing this, we actually see the shift. Like, I think people don't believe in they don't believe in what video that is something shift digital and also started specifically publishing we're getting called for how many people in places are marginalized groups. We're sort of saying we're coming out and we're going to start to demand more and just transparency, and we're going to show that there is an issue. And there were people who had nervous for a few reasons. So
The fair breed.
Specifically, the people for the way that I see it is just that you wrote the blog post and you were very, I think, honest about that this wasn't just, with what's happening in the world, we want to open the door for people. You had said, I take responsibility for the fact that there's a hole. And I think that is something that a lot of companies were saying, where they were just making statements and they were saying, we're going to do better, but there wasn't action. There was a lot of people who didn't necessarily take accountability for what was missing, and why they saw that actually but what was, I think, a little bit for myself and for the community was this fear that a lot of us were exploited. We were just told to come in to be that safe, and then for other people of color to then gravitate here because they're like, oh look, we can go to this person, and then it just we're collecting voices. And I think a lot of people who have conversations with what my choices would be as we don't just be agencies are saying, look, we're collecting marginalized. And I never felt that when you and I had our conversation. You were very clear to me, like, this isn't about
There is another one.
about the fact that we need to really understand what hasn't been a balanced industry and how we can not just say, oh, this change is happening. We have a very public discussion about these issues, and let's just have this conversation. This is about how can we actually like a withstanding system that is supporting, encouraging, and allowing for these voices to grow. And that was what really
I really appreciated that you brought that up, okay? Because it's not that, when I put out that call, there is I don't want people to think of this as a token position or, in bringing you in to only work with BIPOC authors or whatever it is. And but yet I don't necessarily, I don't have perspective on how you might see it, other than me speculating. So I really appreciated you bringing that up to me, and also felt that our conversation was very honest thing, because I also know, based on this, that people going forward, you will be able to say, well, hold up. if ever you need to say,
I think that's what's really great is because we've always had such an open discourse around this, what I'm going to do and what my work is and what I do and what I hope anyone who does want to get into this industry, whether it is doing religion or honestly, I mean, see, it's this idea that identity is so tricky, because I think a lot of people are like, I don't want that to just be my only marker. I don't want that to just be the only thing that people see me as. But at the same time, it's influenced my world. It's influenced the way I edit and I see things. It helps me become a way more empathetic person with my community, but also to understand like my experiences have things that others might not have been able to relate to. And so while I think like as a Black Asian, I don't want to be like, well, I'm the Black Asian, but it's also like I feel like especially when I talk to authors lately, when they come to me with issues about their concerns when it comes to representation in their work, characters, how they see themselves to be perceived, I feel like I'm able to come to this place that a lot of people aren't able to see. And I think that this idea of bringing Black Asians on and just bringing Asian people of color, marginalized groups, anyone honestly who doesn't fit, the very traditional mold. It's not about well, let's just kind of like fill these holes and they're going to represent one area. It's kind of being
When
able to
I was
say
young,
they have experiences that are not, and we're going to be able to create incredible work because of what they were able to use their like they're able to use their worldview, they're able to use their language. It comes down to so many other things, and I think that's what I tried really hard to promote within myself and really stand by when I enter.
Thank you for sharing that.
So as a new agent, you have I think, unique opportunity to build your own character. So in terms of picking the genres you're going to be in, how did you start to make that decision and really think of it?
I kind of just decided that I wanted to find things that to start with. I was like, I'm gonna be as open as possible. So there's two roads to it where I'm like, I'm going to look at everything and be surprised because I think for me, I was like, well, I love genre fiction with like fantasy and sci-fi and supernatural, and I also have learned about myself that like when I'm most stressed and to like recharge, I need the cheesiest, most romantic YA book there is. Like the one where you know exactly who's going to end up with who, like page time. And so I was like, I knew that I loved them. And I knew that I was going to try to champion those and like bring those to my list. But then I also thought, those are the works that I have always just been a part of. And so my books just aligns with that. And I've always just gravitated towards those bookstores and whatever it is. And I was like, what if I fell absolutely in love with another genre that I normally don't look at? And so I was like, I'm just going to be open and I'm going, if something just catches my attention, even if it's just a couple of words in a series that I don't really know what this means, but it just fascinates me, I'm going to grab. And that's actually how I found out I adore and love middle grade. And I really didn't think that was going to be the case for me. I thought YA was my home part, and it is still. But I started to read the Winston adventure, and just a lot of these middle grade stories that I have found truly, truly incredible authors. And I didn't realize just like how you're on the cusp